In August of 1984, Dawn Savecki, a college student living in the town of Plattsburgh, New York, went missing. Dawn was last seen at Blair's, a gay bar that was located just a stone's thrown away from his apartment. From their apartment. From her apartment. When Dawn did not return home, her ex-girlfriend and her partner, whom she shared the apartment with, reported her missing. Shortly after Dawn was reported missing, a boot and belt belonging to Savak, along with a knife, was located in the alleyway across the road from the bar where she was last seen, as well as behind her apartment where she lived. 1 month later, in September, two farmers were cutting crops in a cornfield, just located in Chesney, New York, 9 minutes north of Plattsburgh, when they discovered some decomposing human remains. Dental records later identified the body to be Savak. Located with the body was the matching boot to the one found in the alleyway a month prior. The case remains unsolved. Billie Jean Hall was born on July 19th, 1960. She was the youngest of 3 children and was raised in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. A few weeks after her 24th birthday in August 1984, Billie Jean drove to Hanover, MD, to pick up her then boyfriend from work. While driving home, they collided head-on with another vehicle. Billie Jean suffered several broken bones from the high-impact accident, along with extensive brain damage that resulted in random extended periods of amnesia and seizures. Her memory and cognitive abilities were permanently impaired from the traumatic brain injury. According to her sister Sydney, the insurance company awarded Billie Jean compensation for the car accident in fall of 1984. Cindy said her sister was confused by the situation and unsure what she should do with the settlement money. Eventually, Billie Jean opened a savings account at her bank specifically for the settlement money she received. She also bought a new camper van to replace her totaled car. It's also unclear what kind of treatment Billie Jean was going to receive for her dramatic brain injury. She was referred to a specialist shortly after her diagnosis and had holes drilled into her skull to alleviate pressure on her brain. According to the Baltimore Sun in 1987, Billie Jean suffered a significant brain damage and was scheduled to begin a special class for people with brain damage in the upcoming year. Although Sydney recalled her sister being on the brink of a nervous breakdown, Billie Jean was simultaneously eager to move on from the accident and continue her social life. In 1985, she planned to take a previously scheduled road trip in her new Datsun camper van. Despite her brain injury and her family's objection, in early 1985, Billie Jean told her father, Lemuel, that she would be driving her Datsun camper from Maryland to Florida. She planned to visit some family friends in Orlando before attending the annual week-long motorcycle rally in Daytona Beach, known as Bike Week. Billie Jean ignored her parents' concern and packed her camper full of clothes and items for her trip. She told Lemuel that one of her friends would be riding with her to Florida. This male friend was known to her family and law enforcement, but is never identified in the media. For clarification and word count, I'll refer to this male friend as M. For Maryland, male friend. On Thursday, February 28th, 1985, Billie Jean and M left the Hall's residence in Jessup, MD, driving south in the Datsun camper van towards the highway. This would be the last time the Halls would ever see Billie Jean again. While driving southbound on Interstate 95, Billie Jean and M stopped for gas near Richmond, Virginia. They were approached by a hitchhiker whom they have offered a ride. The Charlie Project refers to this man as Aubrey. The three continued to drive south on I-95 and decided to drive through the night. On March 1st, the trio arrived in Myrtle's Beach, South Carolina. During an overnight stay at a camping park, Billie Jean and M got into an argument. M walked away to a nearby picnic area and used the telephone to contact the local sheriff's department. When an officer arrived, M accused Billie Jean and Aubrey of using illegal drugs and said he was uncomfortable riding in the vehicle with them anymore. The officer suggested that he return to Maryland and provided him with information on public transportation. The next day, M left South Carolina and returned to his residence in Jessup, MD. On Sunday, March 3rd, Billie Jean and Aubrey arrived in Brunswick, Georgia. Her credit card was used to rent a room at a Quality Inn hotel. The two presumably checked out of the hotel and drove southbound to Florida. Billie Jean's friends in Orlando would later tell investigators that she arrived at the residence on the week of March 4th. However, it's unclear if Aubrey was present or not. Her friends said Billie Jean left their home driving her camper van to Daytona Beach with plans to attend Bike Week. The Hall family did not find it unusual when they didn't hear from Billie Jean during the first 2 weeks of her road trip. The 24-year-old was described as a gregarious, independent woman who frequently made road trips alone as well as with friends. When March 20th came and passed without any word from their daughter, Lemuel and Jean Hall began to worry. Billie Jean was scheduled to begin therapy for her traumatic brain injury at the end of March, and her parents started to worry she would miss her appointments. The Halls contacted law enforcement in Daytona Beach to inquire about a missing persons report, but were met with dismissal, possibly due to jurisdiction disputes or disinterest. On March 27th, Lemuel contacted the Glen Burnie State Police in Maryland and filed a missing persons report for his daughter. Known as the world's most famous beach day, Daytona Beach serves as an unofficial mecca for motorcycle and racing enthusiasts. Every March since the 1930s, hundreds of thousands of people journey south to the Florida shoreline for a week-long motorcycle rally that consists of racing, revelries, concerts, and non-stop parties. Harley Davidson's, Hondas, Yamahas, and Suzuki's line the streets, revving their engines, and roaring through the seas of partygoers. Crowds pour in and out of the jam-packed bars and bikers' saloons, including the infamous Last Resort Bar, one of Eileen Rorono's favorite hangout spots. Bike Week concludes with the annual Daytona 200 Motorcycle Classic held at Daytona International Speedway. During the first 6 days of Bike Week 1985, local newspapers reported over 600 arrests, primarily for disorderly behavior and usually involving alcohol. It's unclear when Billie Jean Hall was among the 150,000 people in the crowds at Daytona Beach in March 1985. Weeks after filing the missing persons report, Lemuel Hall began receiving credit card statements for charges allegedly made by Jean. The charges were primarily from restaurants and merchandises, but one suspicious purchase was for a pair of men's size 9 shoes. The transaction occurred at a store in Daytona Beach during Bike Week. The Halls were immediately convinced that somebody else was responsible for the credit card purchases. Before leaving on the road trip, Billie Jean told Lemuel that she had $600 in the account she opened after receiving the injury settlement money from the insurance company in late 1984. Lemuel took the suspicious credit card statements to the Maryland police, who conducted handwriting analysis on the signatures. The results determined that the signatures were not Billie Jean's. However, it's unclear which receipts were analyzed or if all signatures were for purchases made in Daytona were forgeries. The Maryland State Police also contacted Billie Jean's bank and learned the account had an untouched balance of $600. While she did not use any of the $600 specifically set aside for the Florida road trips, some of the credit card transactions at Daytona Beach are believed to have been made by Billie Jean. On August 2nd, 1985, Louisiana State Police pulled over a Datsun camper van with a broken taillight in Cameron, Louisiana. A search of the vehicle uncovered a small amount of marijuana along with a pile of women's clothing. During a closer inspection of the camper's interior, police found what appeared to be dry blood splatter on the walls of the closet. Blood samples were never collected. During questioning, the driver identified himself as 31-year-old Florida native Earl Aubrey No. He was arrested with possession of marijuana on August 10th. Ownership records for the Datsun camper came back, showing the vehicle was registered to a missing Maryland woman, Billie Jean Hall. Police in Maryland located Billie Jean's friend M, who originally went on the road trip with her. During questioning, M was shown a photo lineup and immediately recognized Earl Aubrey No and identified him as Aubrey, the hitchhiker that he and Billie Jean picked up on I-95 in Virginia. However, Louisiana authorities soon realized Earl Aubrey Noah was another alias. The driver's identity was later revealed to be Aubrey Earl Cazolas. Cazolas told police that Billie Jean gave him her Datsun camera after meeting a biker in Daytona Beach. He claimed Billie Jean no longer needed the camper because she was moving in with the biker and did not need to leave Florida. Neither Louisiana nor Maryland police believed Cazolas' story. Before being taken to custody for driving the camper, Louisiana police obtained handwritten samples from Cazolas to conduct an analysis on the forged receipts. When compared, the handwriting analysis proved that Aubrey Cazolas did not forge Billie Jean's credit card receipts. Although police had located Billie Jean's camper, there was no evidence proving Aubrey Cazolas was involved in her disappearance. He was released from Louisiana jail in October 1985, and police were unable to locate him after his release. Although Maryland authorities continued examining Billie Jean's last known whereabouts, the few leads went nowhere, and the case soon grew cold. A missing persons report was eventually filed in Daytona Beach, where Billie Jean was believed to have been staying when she was last seen. Although the case has always been handled by Maryland State Police, since communication between jurisdictions was limited in 1985, it became difficult for investigators in Maryland to follow up on the progress of the case. Several persons of interest have been cleared in connection to Billie Jean's disappearance and credit card forgeries. However, few media outlets reported about the disappearance, and there is little information available. Meanwhile, the Halls feared that Billie Jean had suffered a bout of amnesia originally caused by her brain injury and may not recall her name or anything about herself. They created flyers with Billie Jean's photos and accurate information to distribute at hospitals, police stations, and mental institutions across the southern eastern states. Many of Billie Jean's family members still live in Maryland and regularly search for updates about her disappearance. Billie Jean was just under 5 feet tall and weighed around 100 pounds. When she left for her road trip, she had dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and several large and faded scars on her body after her car accident. A tap was done through her skull and a plate was inserted. She also has an orthodontic screw and a screw installed above her right eye. Billie Jean was blood type O and was known to use drugs. As of 2023, Billie Jean Hall has not been seen or heard from in 37 years. Foul play is presumed in her disappearance. Kevin Ardrey Collins, born January 24, 1974, into a big Irish Catholic family. Kevin was the sixth of 10 kids, and the family, including a foster child and cousin, lived in the 2500 block of Stutter Street in San Francisco. Kevin attended the 4th grade at St. Agnes School. On February 10, 1984, Kevin attended his basketball practice at his school. He left early, sometimes between 6:10 and 6:30 p.m. Kevin usually went to practice with his 11-year-old brother Gary, but Gary was sick that day. Apparently, Kevin could have went home with his coach or another teammates, but instead waited at a bus stop on the corner of Oak and Masonic Streets, where he presumably would have taken the number 43 bus home. The 43 bus is still a line on the San Francisco Transit Authority service. Although Kevin had left his practice early, he was last seen at about 7:55 p.m. He never made it home and was never seen again. Witnesses saw Kevin at the stop speaking with a man that was about 6 feet tall with blonde hair and was in his 20s or 30s. This man also had a big black dog with him that may have been a Great Dane. Apparently, it's also possible that Kevin was taken by 2 white men that were driving a 4-door Royal Blue 1967 Ford Galaxy, but this report, unlike the dog guy, hasn't been confirmed. A major suspect in Kevin's case is a man named Dan Therian, who lived near Kevin's school and had a history of committing sex crimes against children. Therian also owned a large black dog and matched the description of the guy seen talking with Kevin at the bus stop. At the time, the San Francisco police interviewed Therian. He was wanted on sex crimes against a 13-year-old boy. Although Therian was arrested on that crime, he posted bail and fled the country. In 2013, the police searched Therian's former home on Masonic Avenue. Therian died in 2008 of natural causes. Cadaver dogs did hit on the scent of human remains, and there were animal bones in the neighbor's garage, but no human remains were found. Another suspect in Kevin's case is a serial killer named John Duckle, who killed other boys who looked like Kevin. No charges were filed against Duckle, and no connection was made between Duckle being in the area that night. In the aftermath of Kevin's disappearance, his face was one of the first to be on milk cartons, giving it national attention. Missing person posters were put up all over San Francisco, including in shop windows, and because of this his poster was featured in movies like The Terminator and A Nightmare on Elm Street because of the publicity of the disappearance of Adam Walsh the year before. The San Francisco police better respond to Kevin's case, and parents became better informed on how to keep their kids safe from strangers. Kevin had no reason to run away. He loved his family, but was being bullied at school. In November 2005, a man charged with trying to steal Kevin's identity, but a worker at the California State Employment Agency flagged it when they remembered Kevin's case. The identity thief wasn't involved in Kevin's case, but had assumed that the case was so old that no one would remember the case, figuring it was an easy name to steal. The identity thief was the last major update on Kevin's case since the two men I mentioned above haven't been conclusively linked to Kevin's case. At the time, Kevin Collins vanished. He was 10 years old, 4'6", tall, had freckles, a scar on his tongue, and was dyslexic. Kevin was wearing a San Francisco Giants jacket, beige Nike sneakers, and his school uniform, brown Condovere pants, white dress shirt, and a dark green sweater. Kevin's family, especially his mother, has never given up hope that Kevin will be found. I feel so badly for the family.